The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the conclusion of the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Peter turned and saw the disciple following, whom Jesus loved, the one who had also reclined upon his chest during the supper, and had said, "Master, who is the one who will betray you?" When Peter saw him, he said to Jesus, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus said to him, "What if I want him to remain until I come? What concern is it of yours? You follow me." So the word spread among the brothers that disciple would not die. But Jesus had not told him that he would not die. Just, "What if I want him to remain until I come? What concern is it of yours?" It is this disciple who testifies to these things and has written them, and we know that his testimony is true. There are also many other things that Jesus did, but if these were to be described individually, I do not think the whole world would contain the books that would be written. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah, our readings this morning are from the Saturday morning Mass of the seventh week of Easter. It's just the last Mass before we celebrate Pentecost. And so if it sounds like things are wrapping up or coming to a conclusion, then that's why. That's what's going on. And it's remarkable actually. I don't think we catch this really, especially in the language that we use, or even in our own context. This reading from the Acts of the Apostles, right? The conclusion. And what do we have? We have St. Paul in Rome, in chains, who is, it says, right, he's free, he receives people and the rest. And what is he doing? He's proclaiming Jesus. He's teaching about the Lord Jesus Christ. And the language here of, in the Greek, it'd be kurios. The language here would be the same language that Caesar has tried to appropriate for himself. And so here he is in the heart of the Roman Empire, right? In the heart of all worldly power and authority, and he's proclaiming a different king. Yeah, we don't quite catch that, but I think it's terribly significant. One, for at least two reasons. One, because of the plan of God. Right, one, because, wow, like this came together at exactly the right time, in exactly the right place, in exactly the right way, right? And what a coincidence, the plan of God we can see being fulfilled. And actually, if you look at the language that St. Paul is using there, he's talking about the hope of Israel. It's for the hope of Israel that I'm wearing these chains. So it's the whole plan of God. From time to time there are movements in Christianity that seek to discount the Old Testament or the Hebrew Scriptures. And just, we're going to take just like this part. We like it, we understand it, and the rest. So we'll do that. But if you don't get the whole scope of sacred Scripture, if you don't get the whole kind of arc of the history of the Jewish people, then you're not going to really understand Jesus and his claim to be king, the fact that he is king of the Jews, which is what makes him the Lord of all nations. It's what enables Paul to be under the nose of the Roman emperor and still be proclaiming that Jesus is the king. Jesus is the king. This very, very powerful stuff. But I think that whole the grand scope of things, the great narrative of salvation history, or how God is working out his plan to save his wounded and downcast world, comes to light, of course, in Jesus, or finds its fulfillment in Jesus. But we see in the gospel passage a kind of another look at the same reality, where we have here the personal reality of how this is going to happen, how God's plan is going to come to fruition in the world. And it's again saturated with the language of call, of vocation. Right now, I think we get this from the passage, but let me say it a bit more clearly than what's just in front of us. When St. Peter, okay, so we've just seen yesterday, or in the passage previous, that St. Peter is with Jesus, right? This is where he's asking him the question, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Okay, feed my sheep, tend my lambs, right? Okay, he's giving him his mission as Peter is being reclaimed by divine love or mercy, right? He knows that, okay, he's set about that mission. And then Jesus says, okay, like when you were young, you kind of set your own course. But as we go, you're going to be led to the slaughter, basically, right? So you're going to be a martyr for the cause. You're going to give your life, you're going to give your whole life in service of this mission. And this is then when Peter just happens to see John over his shoulder, like, oh, I'm going to die a brutal death. I mean, does that guy, what's going on with him? Is he going? I mean, you could say like there's some fraternity there. Like, is he going to join me? Is he? But yeah, of course, this kind of looking around. It's really important dynamic. It's really important to point it out. But then, of course, the answer is, what if I want him to remain? And in the early Christian community, there's been some sense of, okay, well, Jesus has to return before John. It's probably John before John dies, right? But John is saying that's actually not what's happening, right? He just said, what if I want him to? So you know what it sounds like. That's no business of yours. That's not your business. You follow me, and that's what he says. You follow me. Now, that's a really, it's a crucial time. It's a vulnerable and sensitive time for St. Peter, who has just, had to relive and dig deep on his betrayal, and who is coming into God's mercy for him, God's forgiveness that's bringing him back online, even though he did the worst thing that ever could be done, which was betray and deny Jesus. And he's being brought back online. But it's a really vulnerable and sensitive time for him. And at that time, Jesus is saying, follow me. You follow me. You keep your eyes on me. It's not to do with him. Now, is it to do with him? It is to do with him because, of course, St. Peter is, we say, the first among equals. So he's in the apostolic college, right? But he's the leader. So it's actually, precisely because of his betrayal, denial, and his being shown God's mercy and given forgiveness, he's exactly the right person to hold everyone together. This is true for us in a little bit different way. And I don't know if I'd say in terms of scope or direction. I'm not sure, but it's true for us before it's different. That as forgiven sinners, we become a source of unity for other believers. But even in that, now St. Peter's up here, right? He's called the Pontifex, the bridge builder for a reason, right? In terms of the quest for unity in the church or holding it all together, that's St. Peter. That's his office, and in that, Jesus is saying to him, it's not about him. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that he has to keep his eyes on Jesus. And the only way that Jesus is going to accomplish that mission, even the mission of the unity of the brethren, is to keep his eyes on Jesus and not be worried about the call of anyone else. So what I'm saying is Peter has reason to look around and say, what's going on with the brothers? If you're gonna have me lead them, maybe I should know what's going on with them. And Jesus says the first thing you have to worry about is keeping your eyes on me. What about us? We're not tasked that way with keeping the brothers together, as it were. But do we have, I don't know then, a more idle curiosity about what the plan or purpose of someone else is. And if we do, we cannot allow that to creep in to such an extent that we take our eyes off of Jesus, because it's all about him. It's all about him, and it's all about faithfully following him. And that's it. I don't know. There is, of course, much more to say, and I'll leave it with the way that the passage ends in that sense, right? Because maybe this is St. John's feeling as well. There's much more to say, but the whole world can't contain the books that could be written about Jesus if everything were to be written down. And the reality is, I think, and it's something of a Pentecost reflection or a pre-Pentecost reflection, is to say exactly the same thing. In fact, no book can contain Jesus, right? The Word has become flesh. And now the way that Word is communicated is through flesh. Right? So is the Word incarnate being incarnated by us? Is Jesus and his own life of love made flesh by us, the people in whom he has chosen to dwell, the people through whom he wants to bring heaven to earth? That's the way, that's the personal way the message goes out to the world. That's why Paul, receiving people in his place in chains for the hope of Israel in the heart of the Roman Empire, right? The reason that this all makes a difference is because the Word has become flesh and dwelt and made his dwelling among us. And Paul is incarnating the love of God. Right? Paul is making flesh the Spirit of God, or God is making flesh in and through Paul, right? His own Word. And so too here with Peter, so too with John, so too with us. The only way it happens is to keep our eyes on Jesus and to proclaim with real faithfulness and with real commitment that Jesus Christ is Lord. He is the King, and to him we owe all our allegiance.